Thank you, Mr. Lamb, for the meditation. We'll have it again tomorrow morning, 7:45 a.m. before the Shir, Be'ezer Hashem. Okay. So first and foremost, welcome everybody and good morning, and thank you for joining us. And Bruchim Habayim, wherever you are around the world virtually, welcome. We're very happy to be together and thankful that we could be together. Today's Shir, like all of the learning now, is of course dedicated to all of our brothers and sisters here and the world over who need a refuah shleima and a refuah krova, and may God bring them a complete and speedy recovery and heal them from this very challenging infectious disease, Rachmana litzlan. I asked two people yesterday if I should go on this week with the regular shiurim, because there was a part of me that felt that maybe it was insensitive in the face of enormous suffering and tragedy and loss of life and serious illness. So I asked two people whom I respect and I trust. So one person responded to me and said, if you would ask the souls of those who departed, those who passed away, some of you have friends, relatives, what would they say? Do you think they would say yes? Or you think they would tell you, no, don't. Stop it the whole week. Just sit at home and, and worry or be anxious. Of course, they would tell you yes, probably. You can think if you would ask them, especially if you dedicate it to them and to their families, so lange gesunte Jahr. And the same is true to people lahavdil ben chaim l'chaya chaim who are sick. What would they want you to do? That was the first answer. The second person I asked pointed me to a Gemara in Masechta Eruvin, Daf Nun Daled Amud Aleph, where the Gemara says, Chosh b'roshai Yasik b'Torah. When somebody's head is in pain, he should learn Torah. Chosh b'groinai. When somebody has anxiety or pain in the throat and in the whole area of the lungs, Yasik b'Torah, he should learn Torah. Chosh b'meyav. If his intestines are hurting, Yasik b'Torah. And then Chosh b'chol gufay. The whole body is hurting, Yasik b'Torah. Shenemar l'chol b'sarei marpeh. For all the flesh it will be a healing. The point of the Gemara there is that Torah is meviyah refuah la'olam, and therefore he said it's such a week you should learn much more. You want to bring in every positive ounce of light and healing energy into the community and into Rockland County and into Muncie and into New York and into the world. So he said, it should only increase, not decrease. So I took their cue. And here we are today, learning in the merit and the schus of all our brothers and sisters who need a refuah shleima and a refuah krova. And may God bring them a complete and speedy recovery, very, very speedily, to them, to all of the Jewish people, to all good people, to the entire planet. It's been quite a surreal few days, or soon a few weeks. And we are known in the Tanakh as Am Siridei Charev. You remember that old song of the London School of Jewish Music, you remember? Am Siride Charev Haloich Largia. Well, if you don't know it from the pasuk, you know it from the song. It's one of those old classic songs. I don't know, Pirchei or London School of Jewish Music. Am Siride Charev. Am Siride Charev means a nation that survives the sword. When war breaks out, the best of people comes out, the worst of people comes out. There are people who are passive or sometimes contribute in the opposite ways. And then there are people, their best comes out. They don't think, but their inner gut, their kishkas, their neshama, their essence comes out as servants. They're in battle and they know their job. It's not about understanding. It's not about expectations. It's about leadership. And I feel this is such a moment. We are facing a war. 7.7 billion people are facing a war of an invisible enemy. And in a time of war, the best of people comes out. The best of people is their leadership, their dedication, their relentless selflessness, their sacrifice, their resolve, and most important, their courage. Their courage comes out. And you see it today in quite a few people. You also see the opposite. People who are careless, think people mamish are careless, just thinking about their own spiritual perfection, whatever it may be. I told the kids yesterday that somebody asked Rabbi David Cohen from Gvul Yavitz, from Flatbush. He's one of the big poskim. If somebody goes to shul to daven, because Shabbos there was still shuls open. If it's a mitzvah haba ba'aveira, if it's a mitzvah that comes through sin, like stealing matzah. So Rabbi David Cohen said, no, it's not a mitzvah haba ba'aveira. It's a chefza shel aveira. It's not a mitzvah that comes through, and it's not a mitzvah in aveira. It's a chefza of aveira. Would be like if you don't have matzah for Pesach. So instead of matzah, you say, I have an idea, we'll eat chametz. Not a mitzvah, but right. So this guy who asked the question, David Cohen, is very, very litvish of mind, so to speak. So he tells me, I liked how he said it, it's a certain way of thinking. He said, I want Claire to say that people are going to shul, you have to tell them that when they get home they should re-daven. They should daven again because they weren't yotze. They weren't yotze their davening. When they come home they should daven again. The Gemara calls it Baitzea Beirich Niyetz Hashem. Ein ze mevorech ela menayetz. Like somebody eats tray for food and when they want to bench. So the Gemara says Baitzea Beirich Niyetz Hashem. In any case, different types of people emerge in these situations. And we have to be together, unified, Am Siride Charev, with high spirits, not because of insensitivity, but because of courage. When soldiers are in battle, they must have high spirits, not because there's no casualties and not because they're naive, but because they have to win. And winning only happens in joy and high spirits and trust and unity and leadership and dedication and resolve. And certainly as Jews, we know how deeply the physical and the spiritual are connected and how deeply Torah and the world are connected. It's a lot of what we learn about throughout the year. So therefore, based on the advice of these two confidants, we continue, and not only we continue, we increase, notwithstanding the very powerful and challenging emotions that I'm sure each and every one of us has in our own way individually and collectively, and all of the questions and uncertainty that we are facing. So we're going to continue now, and I'm just going to add one more important point, and this somebody else told me yesterday, and it was just a very powerful line. My wife told it to me, actually. I was speaking to her about the situation. And she said to me, she said, everything you learned your whole life is for moments like this. It's for moments like this. That's when people are tested. And the question becomes if it was real or it was just, entertainment. Let's face it, a few weeks ago everybody had Pesach plans. I was supposed to go to Italy. It's funny. I was supposed to go to Italy. Some of you were supposed to go to Eretz Yisrael. Some Florida, California. Stay home and go on Chalamaya trips, right? Disney World. Whatever it is. But life has changed drastically. So she said, everything you learned in your whole life, it's for these moments. It's mamish for these moments. So that was, I think that's very, very true about all of us. Especially those who have been joining us here learning pretty deep, refreshing, and revolutionary ideas. The depth of Torah. Really, it's all for this moment. It's all for such moments when there is uncertainty, when there's crisis, when there's sadness, when there's pain, when there's a lot of suffering, when nobody has the answers. From President Donald Trump to a very simple, poverty-stricken individual. From the greatest billionaire or celebrity or genius to the most simpleton. Nobody has the answer. Everybody's trying, but nobody has the ultimate answers. Nobody knows the reality. Nobody knows how long. Nobody. So in such a moment, our innermost resources and resolve come out. And they're not of understanding. They're not intellectual. You don't win battles with intellectualism. Normandy was not won through academic soldiers. It's people who have their souls and their hearts and their minds in the right place. They know they have a job, and they are present in that moment. Presence. It's not a time to numb yourself with videos and video games and all that. I understand sometimes maybe people need a little distraction, but it's really a very, very serious and intense time in the world. And everyone in their own way is a leader. You're a leader to yourself, to your spouse, with your spouse, to your children, to your loved ones, and to your sphere of influence. It's time to step up to the plate on every level, my dear brothers and my dear sisters. So now we're going to continue learning. Those of you who have the source sheets, great. If you don't, you can go to the yeshiva.net. You'll see Hasidus Monday morning. Today is Hey Nissen, Tovshin Pei, 5 Nissen, 5780, Parshas Tzav, March 30th, 2020. Monday morning, I welcome everybody who's here. You can ask your questions and text them to 845-777-4747. Did I get it right? I still have to look this thing up. What do you say? When you want to remember something, you remember. There's some things I'll never forget, and some things. 845, I got it right. 845-777-4747. You could text your questions. 845-777-4747. You know what we did with the kids yesterday? Whoever wanted a shout out, they texted us and we shouted out their name. So if anybody wants a shout out that you're here and you woke up so early and you're present and you're not sleeping and you want a shout out, I'm happy to do that. It's not a question. See, the kids were not embarrassed to say, I'm here, I want validation. I don't know how many of you are ready to say, I'm here and I want validation. Okay, the first shout out is going to be for me. Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson is here and he wants validation, and I'm telling you that I'm here. If anybody else wants a shout out, you can text and I'll be happy to do that. So if you have a source sheet, please open up. Last year was, I would say, pretty profound about the levels of nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Now we're going to continue. We're on page Kuf Ayin Aleph, and a few lines from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The line starts Vizehu. Okay. We're going to read a little more inside. Vizehu Gamkein Lefi Shahamidis L'Mailahim Ba'olam HaYetzirah. All of our midos down here are a reflection of spiritual midos. Everything is evolved. Physical and the spiritual are connected, and the human soul and the higher realities are all connected. Midos are rooted in the world of Yetzirah. Shesham mechza mechza ra. The Arizal says in Kabbalah, there's an expression that Asiya is rubai ra and mi'utay toiv. Yitzire mechza al mechza, Bria rubai toiv, miut ra, and Atzilus is kulay toiv. What does this mean? Ra means brokenness. I told you many times the word Ra doesn't mean evil or bad in its original. We call it bad, Ra, you're doing the bad thing, but in its original word, Ra means brokenness. In Baba Kama, some of you have learned Perek HaKainas. I see at least one Bacher who learned Perek HaKainas. There's an expression called Kaisel Ra'ua. What's Kaisel Ra'ua? Kaisel Ra'ua means a shaky, wobbly wall that's not stable. In Koheles, there's an expression, Hevel U'Ru'us Ruach. Ru'us Ruach means broken spiritedness, because all negativity begins in a sense of brokenness, in a sense of fragmentation. You're not connected. You're not connected with the source. So that's what Ra is. So in Asiya, the world of Asiya, meaning the lowest world. What do I mean the lowest world? The world that we naturally perceive intuitively without deeper reflection and experience, without our deeper souls, is mostly broken. It's mostly disconnected. There's Yitzira is half and half. Bria is minority disconnected, mostly toiv. And Atzilus is all about connection. That's what it means. Yitzira is mechza al mechzera, and that's where midas come from. So therefore, the bittul of the Ra cannot be accomplished in the world of midas. Mashenkin moichin l'maylen b'olam habriya. Moichin originated in the world of Bria, shesham rak mi'utei Ra. Over there is only a miut of brokenness. And that's why the bittul of Rav, brokenness, and the transformation of the human condition happens in the world of Bria, not in the world of Yitzira, which in Avodah means it happens in the world of Meichin and not in the world of Midas. It happens in the world of ultimate awareness, of transcendence, and not in the world of my own emotions, which ultimately have my own subjective experience as the core upon which reality revolves. The habitl de midas who kamay davar zor shenichnas al hakodesh shenichlal bekodesh ach ene kodesh mamash kamay kshamakdesh behema lekarbon she'ene adayin kodesh mamash mashenke kshamakrivenes abehema al gabi hamizbeach v'hi nichlalas be'eshel amayla she'az nasas pchines kodesh mamash. An example for this in halacha would be the difference between something that is mundane, which is brought into holiness, but it never really becomes holy itself. It's absorbed, it's connected, but it doesn't become sacred. For example, somebody sanctifies an animal as a carbon. It's actually the parshias of these weeks, Vayikra Tzav, Shmini. Somebody takes an animal and says, Harei ze oila, right? I take a sheep and you want to sanctify it as a carbon. Whether you're obligated or you're not obligated, you're just giving it as a contribution, a neder or a nedava, harei alaya, harei zu oila, with different formulas in halacha. But the point is, you confer sacredness on this animal. Now it's a very serious thing. This animal is now hektish. It has kedushas hakarbon. So he says, but it's not called kodesh mamash. What do we mean it's not called kodesh mamash? There's still a very big difference between this state and then the second state, when you bring it to the Beis HaMikdash and it actually gets offered and its flesh or fat gets placed on the altar and it's consumed in the divine fire. Now it's actually a carbon. It's not only consecrated for a carbon, it actually becomes Kedusha itself. K'meikin habitul da hamidus hu k'mei davar zor shenichnas ala kodesh. She'eni adayin kodesh mamish l'fi shaloshinas tivul legamri. Mashenkin b'meichen are yeshinas tivul legamri. And that's the difference between the bittul of midus and the bittul of meichen. In the bittul of midus, it's still like something alien, something far, which was entered into the world of holiness. There's inspiration, there's holy inspiration, there's beautiful inspiration, but ultimately there's still there's a dissonance. And that dissonance ultimately is evidenced in the fact that later there can be the opposite type of inspiration, as we explained earlier in the previous shiur. The second state of Meichen, there's no dissonance anymore. There's complete oneness. And therefore, there's no room for a parasite to get nurture from it and utilize those emotions for brokenness. V'zel gamkin inyan eved ivri v'amah ivri. And here we come to the two types of Jewish servants, the male one and the female one. In halacha, you have an eved ivri, is a male servant. And an Amma Ivriya is a female servant. The Eved Ivri, Kol Inyonehu Mashamevi Min HaChutz Umin HaShuk. The classic job of the Eved was, a lot of it was transport. Bringing things from the field to the house, from the marketplace to the house, bringing from the outside, Hainu Mashamevi Min HaPirud. He brings it from a place of separation into the private domain. But it's not fixed up completely. What he brings is usually not edible yet. Classic job was that the Eved would go and he would buy or purchase raw meat from the marketplace. It's not yet edible. Yes, he brought it from the marketplace to the house. There's a potential here to eat it. But at this moment, the person can't really gain life from it or pleasure from it because it's not edible. Or the servant goes and brings unbaked bread, meaning he brings flour. He goes to the marketplace and he purchases flour. He purchases grain and perhaps he grinds it and makes flour. It's not yet edible. You can't eat flour. Mashenkin Amma Ivriya, the role, classical role in halacha of the Amma Ivriya, of the female servant, Kol Inyanuhu b'meleches habayis lefes ulavashim. Her job was usually to work in the house, to bake, to cook. Shehiroyu lachilas adam. It takes the materials that the Eved Ivri, the male servant, brought in, and it transforms it that it can become edible. The meat is cooked now. You can eat it. It can become part of your bloodstream. It can help you. It can become part of your circulatory system. The body digests it and breaks apart the meat. Or the same is true. She kneads the flour and the water and she bakes it into bread. Or whatever else she does, whether she cooks the vegetables or cooks the chicken or cooks the meat. It now can become part of the human condition quite literally. What is this a mashal? Lefisha Amma Ivriya Zeu B'chinas Neshama. Shebetzat B'chinas Neshama Harei Meshana Es Tiva Legamri. The Amma Ivriya status in halacha is reflective of a spiritual state. It's Avodas Hashem with the state of Neshama. And the state of Neshama, here, you transform yourself completely. The whole different experience. And that's the difference between the Eved Ivri and the Amma Ivriya. What does this mean? We spoke about three states: Eved Knaini, Eved Ivri, Amma Ivriya. You have to still retain what we learned in other shiurim, because if not, it's very hard to understand the Hemshech. And I don't want to go back and redo it all because we won't get any further. What's Eved Knaini? Eved Knaini was the slave purchased from the non-Jewish world. Eved Ivri is also a slave, but a Jew, completely Jewish. Eved Knaini becomes semi-Jewish. Amma Ivri is also a Jew, is a Jewish girl who's sold as a maidservant. I told you in the beginning of the Maimon we're going to get to the halachas of Amma Ivri and see how the spirituality explains the physical halacha, because it's very difficult to understand Amma Ivriya, what it means a father sells a girl as a slave, as a female slave. It needs real explanation. But I first want to discuss it from the spiritual perspective and then get back to the halachic perspective, because it's all mamish connected, and it's very, very rich and beautiful to see the symbiosis, the connection between the two. Eved Knaini is nefesh, Eved Ivri is ruach, and Eved and Amma Ivri is neshama. Eved Knaini is asiya, Eved Ivri is yitzira, and Amma Ivri is bria. Eved Knaini is hoidu, Eved Ivri is baruch sha'amar v'haya ha'olam, asher yoshe v'secha, v'atam echaya es kula, az yasher Moshe, Yahalu Hashem Hashem ki nizkov shmoi levade. Amma Ivriya is Hameir la'aretz v'adarim aleha, kula mechablim aleim el malchus shamayim, Kadosh, 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 Avas Olam Aftanu, and finally Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Okay? So every day in davening, I evolve. Eved Knaini is the beginning, baseline. That's baseline. Eved Ivri is the next. Amma Ivri is the next. What's the difference? The Eved Knaini is Bechlal not interested. They're not interested. Avda be'efkeire nichale, the Gemara says in Gittin. Daf Yud, I think. Avda be'efkeire nichale. I would like to be a hefker I would love to be frivolous. That's a very real, authentic part of me. Just to acknowledge that is invaluable. To say, yes, that's fine, but you're still an Eved. That's fine. Avda b'efkeire nichale. Shmaka story, I'll tell you. It was one of the presidents of Israel. The third president of Israel was a Jew named Zalman Shazar. I don't know if you know a little bit of Israeli history. His name was Zalman Shazar. Shneir Zalman Shazar. His real name was Rubashov. It's a Russian name. But he was a Zionist and a Chalutz and a left-winger. He left the tradition of his family somewhat, and he became a very left-winger socialist Zionist. He was part of the Mapai movement, of the Mapai. He was, I think, the first minister of education in the Israeli government. He was a thinker, a poet, a speaker, an interesting man, a personality. And he became the third president of Israel. He served for 10 years, 1963 to 1973. Now, he was named after the Balatanya, Zalman, Shnei Zalman, because his Zayda was a Chabadnik, and his Elta Zayda was a Chassid of the Balatanya. So he used to come a lot to the Lubavitcher Rebbe to visit, a lot. He came a few times, and it was sensational because he was the president of Israel. But in 1948, he came to the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe for a Fabrengen. Yutes Kislev Tovshin Ches. Yutes Kislev Tovshin Ches is November 1947. I don't know if that date strikes a chord in any of you, but if you know a little modern Jewish history, you know November 47 was, of course, the time when the UN had to vote if the Jews can create a state or not. That was Chanukah Tovshin Ches, November 47, and a few days before, he was by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in Crown Heights, the previous Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, who was already 2 years before he passed away in 1950, so Fabrengen. So the Rebbe, in the middle of the Fabrengen, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, mentioned this Gemara, Avda behefkedah nichale. That an Eved loves hefkedus. Remember, the Zalman Shazar left everything, but he was a very strong Zionist, and he came back to his roots. So the Lubavitcher Rebbe mentioned this Gemara, Avda behefkedah nichale, that an Eved likes hefkedus. So Zalman Shazar, sitting by the Fabrengen, looks up at the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he says in Yiddish these words. He says, Avde yeah, hefkeda yeah, nichele nisht. He says, a slave yeah, hefker yeah, but nichele not. He's not happy with it. It's not happy. He's behefkeda, but nicht nechele. He was like saying about himself that there's still a deep connection to Yiddishkeit, even though he was not really religious at that time. The Lubavitcher Rebbe accomplished unbelievable things in Israel, in the secular modern state of Israel, because of their relationship. Because he was completely, officially secular and very left-wing, but he accomplished a lot. What's my point? In an there's so many levels. As he said, how much does your rebellion come out in actions and words and thoughts? But there's a lot of rebellion. And there's no inspiration. There is unconscious inspiration. Yes. You remember? Chaya Yechidim Makifim. There is even Makifim of Nefesh and Ruach. Meaning you get stuff in a deeper, more internal way, but not completely inside of you, and therefore there's still a lot of rebellion and alienation. But he shows up. Hoidu la Hashem, hoidah. There's Eved Ivri. Eved Ivri is already much deeper. Eved Ivri is somebody who's in touch with the midas of the Nefesh Elikis. So there's inspiration. And the animal soul is subdued. There's a real davening. There's Avos Hashem, there's Yiras Hashem, Gevaldik. What's the metaphor of Eved Ivri? What does the Eved Ivri do? The Eved Ivri doesn't work outside. The Eved Ivri was usually charged with the mission of going out and bringing it all inside. What does this mean? He can bring in even the animal soul. He can inspire the animal soul. Because when the inspiration, Ruach, not Nefesh, when Ruach comes to fore, the animal soul is also on a high. It's at least quiet, it's at least weakened like a hibernating bear. So this is the Eved Ivri. He takes the food, he goes to the marketplace, he brings in meat, he brings flour, he brings grain from the field to the silo to the house. He brings it in, where he says, he brings the behemoth into Hektish, into Kedusha. He brings it in. But the food is not ready. The food is not transformed. The food is in my house, but it's still raw. I can go into the kitchen and see the meat and see the flour. I can't eat it. The Amma Ivriya takes it and cooks it, and now it's transformed. It's a different entity. So the difference of Eved Knaini and Eved Ivri is space, but not transformation. But the Eved Knaini, it's outside. Meaning, I don't bring in my animal soul inside. I'm not inspired. I'm not. I have a commitment. I have core values that I'm not enthusiastic about and I'm not feeling. But my animal soul remains completely outside, completely alien. Despite that, I can do the right thing. And that's an incredible skill in life. Because who doesn't have moments of Eved Knaini constantly? In fact, often he says, you're mourning, don't expect anything else. You have to show up. You have to show up. I'm in the mood. And that's more important than anything, because on that you build. On commitment, that's where you build. Commitment. That's the power. Yeah. That's why you can't jump to Eved Ivri and Amma Ivriya if you don't go through Eved Knaini. Because Eved Knaini is like a baseline. It's the beginning of it. But my food, but it's still outside. My animal soul is not in. My animal soul says, "Avda befkeda nichele." Even if not nichele, but behefkeda. What means nichele? Nichele means I'm not excited about this whole program. There's a lot of rebellion. On what level? He said, could be Maisa, could be Dibur, could be Machshava, could be your Tavi. Tavi Avdi Kosher Haya. Wow. What an Eved Knaini. That's a very elevated Eved Knaini. In other words, the conviction is so powerful that even his thoughts are in control. Even his words are in control. Which is profound, which is very profound. Very profound. I'm laughing because last time, we were speaking about Amma Ivriya and it sounded like you Mavatal Eved Knaini, Eved Ivri. It's not to be Mavatal, it's powerful stuff. Eved Ivri brings in the food. He brings everything in, but there's no transformation. There's no real transformation. Why? The food is raw. The question is if it's outside or inside. What is that a metaphor? That during a good davening or a good shir, or a good niggin, or a good story, there's an inspiration. but not transformation. Because the inspiration is ultimately what I'm looking for is, I want the high. And it may be my godly soul is experiencing the high. So at that moment, the animal soul joins the party, but it was not transformed. And in a few hours from now, I still remain the same person, the Zelba Behema. I'm really the same Behema. Yes, sometimes the Behema sings Jewish songs. You understand? The Behema sings Jewish songs. The Behema got excited. And it could even be real. Sometimes it's fake. I'm not talking about that. We're talking even if it's real. Because Midas, by definition, is still in the world of separateness. It's in the world of Estylus. I'm looking to get excited by God. I'm not looking for God. I'm looking to get excited by Judaism. I'm not looking for Judaism. This is very deep. It's very, very subtle stuff. I told you last time that if you agree with this immediately, then you could leave the shir. I like the excitement, the passion. Even midas of the nefesh elikis, which are authentically divine, are not kelim for elikus. Because to be a kelim for elikus, you need the transcendence of the eye, where the eye touches a place that is deeper than the eye. And over there, there's no emotions. Not because there's no emotions. There's deeper emotions, but it's not about emotions. The emotions are a natural outgrowth of the deepest relationship. The emotions are not separate anymore. What does the Amma Ivriya do? She takes the raw food and she transforms it. In Moichin, that's where there is rebirth. That's where a person can really affect transformation. Every person is capable of transformation. Transformation doesn't mean you become a zombie. Transformation means that your animal soul opens up to its truth. Transformation means that I don't live in a toxic, broken, fragmented place. I live in a place of infinity. For that to really, really happen, transformation happens through this real type of avodah of the Amma Ivriya, of the Moichin. V'zeu sha'amar, kuf ayin beis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 lines from the top. When the pasuk introduces an Amma Ivriya, it says something very enigmatic. The Parshas Mishpatim. When a man sells his daughter as a maidservant, she should not go out as a slave. Now, it doesn't mean literally. She does go out. She goes out if she's 12. She goes out if she's served 6 years. She goes out if there's money to buy her back. What's Pshat Lo Yiseitzi Kitzei Savadim? The Zohar says, it's not like the Jews left Mitzrayim. Ki loy b'chipazon. They left Mitzrayim in haste. And she goes out differently. What does this mean in the Zohar? It's a strange remes. Sheba'amma Ivriya ein tzarech liyas achipazon b'yitziyah shlo k'mei ba'avadim shetzarech liyas achipazon. When male slaves go out of slavery, they have to rush. When the female goes out, she doesn't have to rush. Because by avodim, the brokenness was not transformed, so you have to always run away. You have to run away because there is a voice lurking in you which will schlep you back into slavery if you don't run. You're running away from a part in yourself. You can't just walk calmly out of your state of avdus because there is a part of you that will pull you back into avdus. In the haste of the slaves to leave servitude, there's different dimensions. Aleph, the first is the ability to mamish run away from real ra. There's certain things you're not allowed to do because it's dangerous for you. You have to run away from it. If you stick there, you could get swallowed up. Al derech, it's similar to Sha'amar Razal, the Gemara says, Ama'aretz asul lechel basa. The Gemara famously says in Ama'aretz, which means somebody who's very divorced from the spiritual, man of the only of the earth, of the land, Am Ha'aretz, is not allowed to eat meat. Lefisha basa hu gvuras. Basar, eating meat, is very intense experience. the acknowledgement of it. Basar is gvura. Basar is very strong, it's very powerful. Meat is powerful. U'meisiv chayim hativi. And it adds tremendous natural warmth to the body. Hare birure kosher. It's not easy to refine the meat, to use the meat as an instrument for your infinity. There's certain foods, if you can't refine it, don't go there because it's going to schlep you down. Just like we all know, some of us have a food addiction, right? There's certain foods, I don't eat one potato chip. If I eat one potato chip, I eat the whole bag. If you give me cake, I don't eat a little tiny piece like my wife does. She takes off a piece and she eats shminis. Yeah? I finish the cake and I'll finish another piece of cake. When you have an addiction to something, you have to stay away. The Gemara says about a nazir. They tell them, don't get close to the vineyard. Alcoholics, they're not allowed to drink wine by the Seder. Why? What's the big deal? I could drink 4 kaises of wine because they drink 1 cup of wine, chayze veneer. Their whole klippe, their whole addiction, their whole dirt could come back. This is called running away. You cannot stay in certain places. You have to disengage. You have to acknowledge the fact that these things are dangerous from you. That's the idea. Basar is not an easy thing to eat in the way you're supposed to eat it. Basar is a very, very intense food. And if you don't have an intense ability to refine it, so the Gemara says, Amar, it's also lechel basar. B'meila. You see what meat does to people. That's the concept of nedarim in halacha, promises. There are things that I can't refine. On the contrary, they're going to bring me down. I have to segregate. Who bina, even though it says in Kabbalah and nedarim are associated with bina. The Gemara says when you make a neder, it's like you're making a neder by the life of the king, which in Kabbalah is associated with bina. Mikol makom, harei omar b'chaye hamelech, shezel ma shebina nasa eim habonim v'ayinu makar la'amidus u'melar is a shayich la'avad. He's explaining Kabbalistically, it's called the chaye hamelech. Melech is how bina becomes a mother of children. Malchus is femininity. In other words, it's a source of midas, and that belongs to the world of avodim. Avodim have to make nedarim, certain promises that I cannot get close to this, because if I get close to this, my ra could come out and take me out, take me down. You have to be careful. The Eved must leave in haste. He has to run away from Mitzrayim. Why? Because certain places, if I stay there, I don't have the equilibrium, I don't have the wholeness to be able to stick around. It's too dangerous for me. Those of us who struggle with certain things, you cannot go to certain places. The moment you go to certain places, your ra will come out. Somebody who's transformed could go there. He can eat this, he can be there because he's very refined and it's not going to trigger the ra in him. But if I'm not refined, I have to know it. And if I'm going to go to this place or to this food or to this situation, what's going to happen? Even though I feel inspired, it can trigger the worst in me, which has not been dealt with. It was just in hibernation. And then I'm right back in servitude. And that's the idea that I have to be in a state of barach. I have to run away from Egypt because I may have left Egypt, but Egypt has not left me. I want to be somewhere else, but there's still parts of me that are very, very enslaving. And you have to know where you have to be careful. That's the concept of a neder. Why would anybody make a neder? If the Torah permits it, do it. If not, not. The idea is because a neder is based on where you are in life. Certain things for me have to be off limit. And it's also true psychologically. We all know you could be in a very good place, and then your wife tells you something, or your child tells you something, or your boss tells you something, or you tell yourself something, and what happens? You're triggered and you lose it. You lose it. Why? Because there is some brokenness in you that has never been dealt with. Or even if it's been dealt with, it has not been dealt with fully. And therefore, at such moments, you're not going to be able to really emerge in full purity and glory. You have to quarantine it. You have to be able to tell yourself, you know what? This is a broken place and I'm not going there. And you have to run away from it. You have to know that it's there, and then literally step away from it with a lot of resolve. And this takes haste. And this is the first avodah, where you need chipazon. V'oid inyan ha-chipazon, there's another element in chipazon. Hu inyan ha-mehirus, it's swiftness. L'kashres hatzme b'tevus ha-Torah v'ha-tefillah. To connect yourself with words of Torah and Tefillah, mitzat sheyesh leha-bilbulim di yitzahara v'nefesh ha-bahamas, shemaval bulim ma'iseh be'ez ha-tefillah, tzarech l'kashres hatzme b'tevus ha-tefillah. There's a person who gets up to daven, I think we'll all relate to this, and they can really melt away in ecstasy. But some people can't. Their thoughts are all over the place. And you need the chipazon, you need to be conscientious and really connect yourself to the words. The words of the Torah, the words of the davening, really, they contain you, they hold on to you because of all the bilbulim of the Yitzhak of Shabbamas. We had before a meditation. So our dear leader of the meditation, right, always during the meditations would say that if your mind is taking you to different places, right, slowly move your mind away from it and try to focus on what we're talking about, because our mind goes everywhere, and that's a chipazon. The chipazon is, I have to be able to extricate my mind and my awareness from these places and really stay focused there, because yes, there's a lot of different forces going on in me. That's called being a human being. This is even in the middle of davening, even more during the day. Sometimes you start having machshavas that you really did not want. You really don't want them. But they're there. They're there. You can't escape them. I think we all know from experience, or at least I know from experience, I assume one or two of you understand this. You could be in the middle of the day, right? And suddenly an image comes into your mind, or an experience, or an encounter, or a conversation, or a certain person, and it really gets you, it drives you crazy. It could be problematically morally problematic. It could be promiscuous. It could be unhealthy, unproductive. But it's part of the human condition. If you're not going to run away, if you're going to say, I'm all good, I'm a wholesome person, you know what's going to happen? In a few minutes, you could be in a spiritual abyss. This happens to many, many people. They don't acknowledge that they're in a state of avdus. Yes, I want to be a servant of God, but part of me is in a different place. And I have to have the courage to extricate myself. And he says, what do you do at that moment? You can't start arguing with it. You have to connect yourself with Oisius HaTorah. It says in Tanya, light expels darkness. You can't fight with the light. You have to go to a place of, you can't fight with the darkness. You have to go to a place of light. וזהו עניין החיפוזן של עניין המהירס לקשרס עצמי באיסיס התורה. וכמאמר רז"ל, הצפינו עצמכם בדברי תורה. Chazal have an expression. Rav Lechem Tzafayna, that the message to the Jewish people was, Hatzfinu Atzmei, hide yourself, from the word tzafon, like that tzafon in the Seder, right? Lahatzpin, to hide. Hide yourself in Divrei Torah. It's like a hiding place. It's like a cocoon. It's an escape. In a good way, an escape. An escape to a place that's more wholesome. There's another element of chipazon. The first element of chipazon is, haste is, that there's certain things I have to run away from. Like the example he gave with meat for certain people. The second element of chipazon is that I need a place that is safe. It's called a safe zone. Boyal ateva, hatzpinu atzmechem. In davening in the middle of the day, when you have all machshavas, where do you go? When you have these thoughts that are not good for you, where do you go? You need a good place to go, a safe place. This is chipazon. Yes, you have to be able, it's called an exit plan, a strategy plan to exit. You need an exit emergency door. Why? Because sometimes you just got to leave the room. If you stay here, you can get consumed by things you don't want to get consumed. There's another chipazon that's l'maher es haratzi, to hasten the yearning. What does this mean? Chol avidase v'yigiyase yirak b'psukah d'zimra b'shvachim shal makam loy ba'asaga v'izbainis can call ike yigiyase yirak b'psukah d'zimra. Where the person's avodah is in psukah d'zimra. not so much in contemplation, but the main avoid is Psukkah de Zimra, the singing, or kamoikin bezbaining is belavas Hashem alekecha uchayecha. Ech shebechol davar yesh chiyas aleki, hine gam bazet tzarich liyas hayizbaininus rak b'chdei lavi ala b'chein levad. Sometimes you're not in a position of hisbaininus. The focus has to be Psukkah de Zimra. What's Psukkah de Zimra? You remember what we learned before? Psukkah de Zimra is not so much about meditating the ideas. Psukkah de Zimra is more about allowing yourself to get excited, allowing yourself to get enthusiastic, talking about the wonders of creation, talking about your own wonders, your own relationship with God, talking about the idea to love God because He's your life. Everything is really Chiyus Eliki. The whole world is really divine energy, nothing else. There's no other institution that exists. You could look at reality today and everything we learned about, you could see happening. Even when you think about this, the focus should be to reach the bechein. What's the bechein? The application. You're not in a place where the elaborate meditation is necessary or even possible. You need to get to the bechein. Ve'ein meir etzlei ha'oid eliki. U'memela de'ein poel al ha'nefesh ha'bahamas v'rei ha'nefesh mischazik b'yoyse. U'lezoit tzarech liyas ha'izbeininus rak b'chdei lovi el ha'bechein levad. I'm not in a place of real hasaga, of real comprehension, where my animal soul can be transformed, where I'm truly a vessel for transcendence. I have to use the idea for application, for bechein. You have to hasten your yearning to Hashem. In a much deeper level, you don't hasten it. You're not hastening it. You're not running away. Here, yes, you are running away. You have to get yourself on fire. You have to get yourself on fire. It's a fascinating idea. You need to get yourself. Get that fire burning. Get that fire burning. The log is not on fire. Okay, bring in some kerosene. We're not talking about a fake fire. Psukkah de Zimra is not fake, but we're talking about the bechein. Finally, there's the chipazon of the emotions. There's spilus or inyan mehidus. Hepech hamoichin shel bisyashvus. Mashenkin is spilus shel b'mehidus. What's the difference of midas and moichin? His spilus is always fast, haste. Moichin is about his yashvus settlement. Emotions rage. They're exciting. It's like a roller coaster, right? That's what we want. Excitement. Se brennt a fire. Wie sagt man in Karlin? Wie sagt man in Stalin or Shalom? Se brennt a fire. Yeah, it's a burning. A fire never rests. A fire is never relaxed. A fire burns. That's his spilus. Moichin is the opposite. His yashvus. The Alter Rebbe once asked, what did Moshe Rabbeinu look like during Matan Torah? What did Moshe look like during Matan Torah? I'm sure no one ever thought of. Do you ever think about this question? So you know what he answered? Et ausgeguckt wie a Stück Eis. He looked like a piece of ice. You understand? Because whenever there's excitement, there's always distance. I'm excited about you. You understand? I'm trying to overcome the distance. So his spilus is always mihirus. There's haste. Moichin is his yashvus. Yeah. His spilus is mehirus. And because you're in a state of his spilus, you can get nispol from something that's outside of you. You can always get interrupted. His spilus has to come to an end. You can't always move that way. It's going to come to an end. Whenever you're emotionally excited about anything, know that it's going to end. You have to know it's going to end. Moichin doesn't end. His spilus has to end. Yeah. But this is what you need now. You need the haste. The Ra is not transformed. You must have chipazon. It's beautiful. It's fine. Run away. So what's chipazon? Number one, run away from certain places because they're too addictive. They're too dangerous. Number one. Number two, You have to have a safe zone where you go to. There's where you go from, and there's where you go to. That's the second element of running away. Number 3, chipazon is hasten the inspiration by not focusing on the ideas per se, but on their application, even though it's a compromise, because that's what you need. And number 4, allow yourself the world of hispilus, which is the world of chipazon. This is all in the state of the Eved Ivri, and certainly the Eved Knaini. They go out from slavery b'chipazon, in haste. We go later to the Amma Ivriya, the female servant, she doesn't go out in haste. Loi seitze ketzeis avodim, she does not go out in haste, as we will continue Be'ezer Hashem tomorrow morning. So 7:45 Tuesday morning we have our meditation, and 8 o'clock we'll have the shir, and now we're going to continue with the Gemara class. Everybody who staying with us, thank you very much. Those who are moving on, stay healthy and have a beautiful day. My love and blessings to all of you. May God grant a complete and speedy recovery to all those who need it, b'seich sha'ar chayli Yisrael and the entire world. V'noimar Amen. Have a beautiful and meaningful and inspiring and courageous day. Courageous day. Courageous. That's the word today. Courageous. Oh, questions. Okay, that Moshe. It seems like World War III, the whole world involved, not one segment against the other, like prior wars. The whole world united, ba'achdus, against a common unseen enemy. Yes, quite unprecedented. Linda from Arizona. It's 5 a.m., it's very early, but I'm with you from Arizona. Thank you, Linda. You are a rock in times of trouble for people. Thank you for teaching. Thank you, Linda, for your kind words, and thank you for joining us. Reb Aaron. I absolutely want validation. Shout out for Reb Aaron. And I've been thinking about all the great fellow attendees of Rabbi Jacobson shir in the morning. I think about you all and wish you all well. Thank you, Reb Aaron. Thank you for joining us. And Reb Aaron, we all love you and appreciate you, and thank you for being part of our Chabura. Okay, let's continue now with the Gemara.